$400 million. That's the staggering amount of global commerce held hostage every single hour during the 2021 Suez Canal blockage. For 6 long days, just one ship, the Ever Given, completely exposed the massive fragility and, frankly, the catastrophic information failures of our global supply chains. Managers everywhere were just left scrambling. They were operating totally blind, relying on these completely outdated tracking systems. But what if the system could have actually seen it coming?
Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm really thrilled to dive into this with you because we're looking at the exact cure for the modern supply chain permacrisis. We're finally leaving that era of static logistics in the rearview mirror and stepping right into the age of cognitive, self-thinking networks.
Here's our cognitive map for today. We'll start with the supply chain permacrisis, then look at the tech convergence of AI and blockchain. After that, we'll unpack the digital agility pyramid, look at some real-world wins and warnings, and finally, map out how to build these cognitive supply chains.
All right, Section 1, the supply chain permacrisis, operating blind in an interconnected world.
To really understand why traditional logistics methods are failing so catastrophically right now, you just have to look at this number. Companies are now losing an average of $184 million annually to supply chain disruptions. And here's why that matters. These aren't just one-off acts of nature, they're systemic failures. Organizations are literally bleeding capital because they're operating on siloed, fragmented data. They simply can't see the compounding variables that lead to disaster. The old ways of doing business, they are permanently obsolete.
So, on the left side of this equation, we've got the old standard, reactive supply chains. You know the drill. They're paper-based, highly manual, and basically force you into scramble mode after a disruption hits. But on the right, that's the solution, cognitive supply chains. These systems are autonomous. They actually predict problems and execute the solutions automatically. This transition solves what industry leaders call the trilemma of supply chain modernization, which is achieving speed, cost, and trust all at the exact same time.
Moving on to Section 2, Tech Convergence, AI meets blockchain.
Now, let me be crystal clear here. We are not talking about cryptocurrency hype. This is about brilliant architectural convergence. Think of it like this. On one side, you have blockchain acting as a trusted memory. It gives you an immutable, decentralized ledger. But at the end of the day, it's just a ledger. It can't predict the future. On the other side, AI is the predictive brain. It can forecast demand, optimize routes, do all that smart stuff, but it's incredibly vulnerable to bad or manipulated data. Put them together, though, they perfectly solve each other's fatal weaknesses.
And that brings us to an absolutely crucial concept, provenance AI, because blockchain secures data at the very source, let's say a temperature reading from a shipping container in transit. The AI system can mathematically verify that the data hasn't been tampered with. This completely cures AI's notorious garbage in, garbage out problem. I mean, nobody wants their AI hallucinating where a shipment of critical pharmaceuticals ended up, right? By combining these, you get trustworthy, provenance insights that you can actually bet your balance sheet on.
Let's jump into Section 3. The digital agility pyramid.
To see how all of this stacks up into a cohesive strategy for maximum resilience, we can look at this academic framework. It perfectly encapsulates the hierarchy of these technologies, turning abstract theory into a really visual stack. As you can see, we build this from the ground up. We integrate digital twins and IoT at the base for visibility, move up through blockchain for that core trust, and top the whole thing off with AI for predictive power. This entire architecture is what ultimately drives supply chain agility.
Let's quickly break down how this digital agility and resilience framework actually works in practice across 4 crucial steps. First up is sensing. Here, IoT acts as the nervous system, giving you early detection if a disruption is brewing. Second is responding. AI steps in as the brain to make rapid, data-driven decisions. Third, adapting. This is where digital twins let you simulate different scenarios and adjust on the fly without risking physical assets. And finally, recovering. Blockchain steps in to provide transparent, trust-based data sharing so you can get operations restored rapidly.
Which brings us to Section 4, Real-World Wins and Warnings.
Let's ground all this theory in some reality. Imagine you're a major retailer, and you're facing a deadly E. coli outbreak in leafy greens. How long does it take to trace that contaminated food back to its exact source so you can protect your customers? Well, this was the exact high-stakes question Walmart faced just a few years ago.
The contrast here is just absolutely staggering. Using their old paper-based method, it took them nearly 7 days. 7 days!
That meant massive panic-induced recalls that cost millions. But by implementing the IBM Food Trust blockchain, they shrunk that trace time down to 2.2 seconds. That kind of unbelievable speed enables surgical recalls. It saves millions of dollars, and most importantly, it protects consumer trust and human lives.
But, it's not all easy wins. We definitely need to look at a vital cautionary tale here, the mask trade lens trap. So Mask and IBM tried to digitize the global bill of lading using blockchain. Sounds great, right? Well, it failed and was entirely discontinued in 2023. Why? Because competitors perceived it as a mask product, so it completely misaligned the incentives for freight forwarders. The critical takeaway here is that even if you have the brightest engineers in the world, brilliant technology will absolutely fail without neutral governance and perfectly aligned ecosystem incentives.
All right, our final section, number 5, building cognitive supply chains. If you're a CTO or a logistics leader listening to this, I know you need to justify the balance sheet impact. The secret here is that you don't try to boil the ocean all at once. You follow a timeline. You start with a high-friction pilot, taking maybe 1 to 3 months just to establish a rock-solid proof of concept. From there, you move into deployment, where you can actually start seeing admin savings of up to 30%. Then comes optimization, which drives inventory reductions of 10 to 25%. And finally, maturity. That's where you get real brand differentiation. That early pilot quickly proves the ROI, which basically funds your entire journey toward an autonomous network. So to execute that roadmap, here's a look at the proven production stack. You're likely going to use Hyperledger Fabric for your blockchain, mainly because it offers those privacy channels that are absolutely crucial for enterprise data. Your AI models? Those will run off-chain, but the absolute missing link here is middleware, like Chainlink oracles. See, blockchains are inherently blind to the real world, so you desperately need these oracles to act as a bridge between your off-chain AI predictions and your on-chain ledgers, all anchored by real-time IoT sensors. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a core imperative based on some recent Harvard Business Review research. The era of static, linear supply chains, it's permanently over. The future belongs to cognitive supply chains. End-to-end transparency is no longer just a nice-to-have or some optional upgrade. It's literally essential for survival in today's permacrisis.
And that brings us to our final thought. The Suez Canal blockage won't be the last crisis to hit global commerce. The question isn't really whether another disruption is coming, but whether you'll be ready for it. Will you lead this technological transformation, predict the next shock, and autonomously adapt, or will you be left operating in the dark? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.